This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. So once again, tonight and tomorrow's Yom Yerushalayim, 1967, the truly miraculous Six-Day War that brought about the reuniting of Yerushalayim, and more than the reuniting of Yerushalayim, that brought about the return to Yerushalayim of Jewish sovereignty, which we had not had for thousands of years. And truly, truly incredible. I sent out earlier a link for a presentation that you could watch at your convenience from the OU, RCA, YU, and Mizrahi on Yom Yerushalayim, and there's actual footage there, and you get a sense of the miracles, the true miracles that went into that. When Israel went on their preemptive strike into Egypt, so we flew at a very, very low level, about 20 meters, about 20 yards, 30 yards perhaps, over the ground to evade the radar. And Egypt had a very, very advanced anti-aircraft system. However, sorry, some grandkids. They had a very advanced anti-aircraft system, but right at that time, they were going through, sorry, just one second. At that point, Nasser, who was the head of Egypt, was convening a whole group who were flying in from different Arab countries to coordinate this coalition to drive the Jews into the sea, and therefore all of their anti-aircraft were put on pause, and that allowed Israel to get in there and completely wipe out their air force, which really what set the stage for the victory. What I'd like to do though today is go through the psukim of Yerushalayim. Right, there are throughout Tanach, throughout Navi, prophets, and scripture, there are hundreds and hundreds, 600 something mentions of Yerushalayim in our Tanach, in our scripture. But I want to go through the earliest, not necessarily mentions, almost mentions of Yerushalayim, but the earliest indications and allusions to the place that is now Yerushalayim, to the place that is now where the Kotel is, the retaining wall. Behind that right now is a mosque, but that was built over the Beit HaMikdash, over where the first and then second temple, the first temple was built, second temple had been rebuilt. So let's go through these psukim and get a sense. I'm going to be sharing my screen with you. Here we go. Should be able to see it in just a moment. Okay. Do you see my screen, everybody?
Yes, Rabbi.
Very good. Okay. So the very first mention that we have, the first allusion to it is in Bereshit. Umalki tzedek, pasuk Yuda, perak Yudalet, pasuk Chet. Umalki tzedek, melech Shalem. Malki tzedek was the king of Shalem. Hotzi lechem v'yayin. He brought out bread and wine. This is after Abraham had been victorious in his battle and had rescued Lot. He was victorious in his battle against 4 major kings. So Melchizedek, the king of Shalem, brought out bread and wine. V'hu kohen le'el elyon. And he was a kohen, he was a priest to the God of high, to Hashem, in other words. So he was a spiritual person who served as a Kohen to God. And he's referred to as Malki Tzedek, the king of Shalem. Okay, let's zoom forward a little bit. Vayomer, and God said to Avraham, this is the Akedah. We have it both in Hebrew and English for everyone. This is chapter 22, Pasuk Beth, verse 2. And Avram, and he said, Kachnat bincha, take your son, et yichidcha, your only one, asher hafta, that you love, et Yitzchak. Yitzchak, from here we learn out that when a person, that we need to break a person in slowly, right? If there's very bad news, even very good news. Here it was very, very difficult directive that he was being given. V'lech lecha, and go el eretz haMoriah, to the land of Moriah, v'halei sham la'olah, and bring him up there as an offering, al echad ha'arim, on one of the mountains, asher omar elecha, that I will tell you. Vayashkem, Avram's response was, Vayashkem Avram haboker. Avram got up early in the morning. And he saddled his donkey. Vayikach, and he took at Shnei Na'arav, he took his two lads along with him. That was Yishmael and Eliezer. Ve'et Yitzchak beno, and Yitzchak, Isaac his son. Vayivaka atzei olah, and he split to prepare wood for the offering. Vayakam, and he got up. Vayelech, and he went El HaMakom, to the place. Asher Amar Lo HaElokim, to which God had told him. Now, the verse before it said, of which I will tell you, now of which God had told him. So some learn that in the interim, God let him know where to go to. Others learn that he understood and he had to go to that place. Vayihi, and it was pasuk daled bayom hashlishi. No, vayihi, sorry, bayom hashlishi, on the third day. Vayisa Avram et einav, Avram lifted his eyes. Vayaret hamakom meirachok, and he saw the place from afar. This place, according to our tradition, is the makom mikdash, is the place of the Beit HaMikdash, the place in Yerushalayim where the Beit HaMikdash was built. But we'll see another moment. Vayikra Avraham Shem HaMakom Hahu Hashem Yera'eh. Hashem Yera'eh Hayom B'Har Hashem Yera'eh. Avram named that place, God will see, right? On the mountain the Lord will be seen. So what do we have? The two references to that place. The top reference was Malki Tzedek, the king of Shalem. And here, Avram called the name of that place Yera'eh, Yirah. Yerushalayim is a combination of Yirah and Shalem, of this awe and Shalem, this completion and this peace. That is the combination as we know it as Yerushalayim. And on the video the link that I sent from, again, the OU, RCA, YU, Mizrahi, Racheli Frankel speaks. And I think Racheli Frankel is an amazing, amazing woman. She's the mother of one of the three teenagers that were captured by Hamas and murdered. This is going back now already, I lose track, I think about 3-4 years. And she's an amazing, amazing person. She speaks beautifully. She speaks prominently towards the very beginning of that video. I believe it's she, or maybe it's someone else, who contrasts this Yira and this Shalom in a very, very beautiful way. Again, that's on that video that I encourage you at your own convenience to watch. So we see the Yira, he called the place Hashem Yira'eh, and Malki Tzedek Melech Shalem. We zoom forward 2 generations from Avraham to Yaakov, to Jacob. And Yaakov, having received the bracha and the brachot actually from his father, now is on his way away from there to evade Esav and to find his wives and wife or wives as ended up being and marry them. And he came Vayifka Bamakom, and he encountered the place. Vayalen Sham, and he slept there Kiva Hashemesh, because the sun had set. Vayikach me'avnei hamakom, and he took some of the stones of that place, Vayasem, and he placed them Rashotav by his head, Vayishkav v'makom, and he slept in that place. Vayachalom, the very next verse, and he had his epic dream. V'hinei, and behold, Sulam Mutzav Arta, there was a ladder that was standing on the ground, Verosho Magia Hashamayma, and the top of the ladder reached up to the heavens. V'hinei, behold, Malachei Elokim Olim B'Yordim Bo, and angels of God were ascending and descending on that ladder. We continue. Vayikatz Yaakov Mishato, and he woke up from his dream, from sleep. And he said, Achen Yesh Hashem Bamakom Hazeh. There is God, God's presence is right here in this place. Anochi lo yadati, and I did not know. Vayira, and he was in awe. Vayomar, and he said, Manora hamakom hazeh. How awesome is this place? Ein zeh ki'im beit Elokim v'zeh shar hashamayim. This is nothing but the house of God, and this is not the stairway to heaven, but the gateway to heaven. This is the gateway to heaven, and we'll soon see what Shlomo HaMelech, what King Solomon said when he ultimately built the Beit HaMikdash Bamakom, at this place. Yaakov, we continue, Vayishkem Yaakov, he got up in the morning, Vayikach et ha'ev, and he took that stone, Asher Sam Me'rashotav. The discerning eye has noted that first he took stones and then he took the stone. And our sages say that miraculously they fused together. They wanted to all be there to serve Jacob, the tzaddik. And this was an idea that the 12 tribes will come together to fuse together into one nation. Vayasem otam matzeva, and he made it into a monument, an altar, vayitzok shemen al rosha, and he poured oil onto that. Vayikra et shem hamakom hahu Beit El, and he called that place Beit El, which means the house of God. V'ulam Luz shem Elishana, originally it was called Luz. Va'even hazot, and he said, and this stone Hashasanti Matzeva that I placed as an altar, Yihye Beit Elokim, will ultimately become a Beit Elokim. A house of God will ultimately become the temple. And all that you give to me, I will tithe, I will give back that to you. In the Midbar, now we zoom forward to Shemot 25, Chaf Hey, that is Parsha to Truma, my Bar Mitzvah Parsha. Va'asuli Mikdash, this is Moshe being commanded to make the Mishkan, Mikdash, those words are used interchangeably in the Torah. Mishkan is when it was in its transportable state, and ultimately it was established in Yerushalayim in a permanent manner, and that then was the Mikdash. But most importantly, V'asuli Mikdash, make for me a Mikdash, God says, V'shachanti b'tocham. Famously, God does not say, and I will dwell in it, but rather, I will dwell b'tocham, in their midst. I will dwell within you as as individuals, as communities, as a nation. So the Mishkan, the Mikdash, was not meant to be a place where God would reside, so to speak, as we'll soon see how King Solomon, Shlomo describes it. But this was a way for the Shekhinah, the divine presence, to come down and be there for us, with us, in this tangible way. King David wanted to build the Beit HaMikdash, and King David was told, David Melech was told, not you, but your son. And his son Shlomo Melech, in fact, did build that Beit HaMikdash. And in Malachim, in Prophets, Kings 8, there we hear, and this happens to also be the Haftorah that we read for Yitro, right? For Truma, right? Truma is about building the Mishkan. So the Haftorah, the parallel in Navi, is Shlomo Melech building the actual Beit HaMikdash. And he said as follows, I've built this house. Ki ha'unam yeshev Elokim ala aretz. But will God dwell here in the land? Hinei hashamayim u'shmei hashamayim lo yichalkelucha. The heavens and the heavens of heavens cannot contain you and your glory. Af ki abayit hazeh asher baniti. Certainly not this house, right? As grandeur as a house as it was with the gold and the silver, but it's a house. It's a physical place. Can this house possibly contain you, God? However, ufanit el tfilat avdecha vel tchinato Hashem Elokai lishmoa el harina vel atfila asher avdecha mitpalel f'necha yom. But I'm asking you to please turn towards the prayers of your servant himself, Shlomo, King Solomon, and to his supplication, his tchina, lishmoa el harina ve'el hatfila. If you remember when we're saying slichot going up to Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, that's a phrase that we repeat often. Lishmoa, to listen, el harina ve'el hatfila, to the song and to the prayer. Asher avdecha, that your servant, mitpalel lefanecha yom, is praying before you, that I, King Solomon, Shlomo Melech, your servant, that I'm praying before you today. Liot einecha petuchot el abayit hazeh, that your eyes should be open. Of course, God doesn't have eyes which are either open or closed, but anthropomorphism, eyes that are open, connotes an awareness. And not just an awareness, but a focus. So let your focus, God, be El Abayit Hazeh, to this house, Laila V'yom, day and night, V'hamakom, and to this place, Asher Amarti, that you said, Yesh Misham La'olam, Yesh Misham, my name will be there, Lishmoa El Atfila, to hear the prayers, Asher Yisroel Abdecha El Hamakom Hazeh, that your servants will pray towards this place. And we know, of course, if everybody could please mute, we have a little bit of bounce back. Everybody could please mute. Just 1 second. We know that this is where our tefillot have always been directed to. Just 1 second, my friends. This is where our tefillot, for thousands of years, when we were outside of Yerushalayim, but we say, oh, you have to face east. Yeah, because we are west of Israel, so we face east. But if in Babylon, when the Talmud refers to the sages of Israel, they refer to that as Ma'arava, to the west. They would face west towards Israel. If you're north, you face south. If you're south, you face north. All the tefillot would come together at that place, so to speak, and ascend through that Sha'ar HaShamayim. If you're in Israel, you face Yerushalayim, depending on where you are in Israel. If you're in Yerushalayim, you face towards the old city, towards the Beit HaMikdash, towards the Temple Mount. That is the place where all the tefillot would gather to. The Gemara Yuma says, we have it both in Hebrew and in English. The Gemara says, Mikdash Rishon, the first temple, Mipnei Ma Charav, what led to its destruction? Mipnei Gimel Dvarim Shehayu Bo, because of 3 cardinal sins that were taking place then. Avodah zarah, idolatry, gilui arayot, gross immorality, ushfichat damim, and murder. However, the Gemara goes through numbers of verses and continues. Aval mikdash sheni, but the second temple, shayu oskim b'torah u'b'mitzvot, where we were involved, heavily involved, engaged in Torah, in mitzvot, gemilut chasadim, acts of kindness. Mipnei macharav. Why was that destroyed? Meishahaita bo sinat chinam. Because there was this wanton hatred, judgmentalism, looking down on one another, looking askance at one another. Which teaches us sinat chinam, that this sin of this wanton animosity is shkula, is equal, keneged, to the three cardinal averot, sins of idolatry, immorality, sexual impropriety, and shvichat damim. So that was the scourge that affected us and led to the temple not being amongst us, right? We know as parents, there's nothing that we want more than for our children to get along. And if they're not getting along, you guys fight it out. I'm not sticking around for this. Kaviyachal, that's what Hashem said also. My presence will not be here amongst you if there's not going to be this unity amongst the people. And that's what led to the destruction. But always we look to Rabbi Akiva as our source of inspiration, and he gives us the template of seeing the bracha, seeing the blessing, even in the midst of the hardships that we go through. And the Gemara there tells us about Rabbi Gamliel, Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Yeshua, and Rabbi Akiva, gave one story of them, and then we pick up in the Hebrew with the second story. In the English, it's the second paragraph. Shuv pamachat. We're into problems with the screen here. I'll try to keep it. Shuv hamachat. Another time, only Yerushalayim. They were going to Yerushalayim. Kevin shegiu lahar tzofim. When they reached Mount Scopus, har tzofim kor bigdeyim. They tore their garments. Kevin shegiu lahar habayit. They reached Har Habayit, the Temple Mount. Ro shual shiyatzim beit kachei gadashim. They saw a fox that was running out from the area which had housed the Holy of Holies. Hitchilu hein bochin, and they all started to cry. Rabbi Akiva mitzachek. Rabbi Akiva was laughing. Rabbi Akiva, how could you be laughing? He said to them, why are you crying? They said, what do you mean, why are we crying? Malkum shekasav bo, the place about which it is written, Vazar karev yumat. If a non-Kohen, he could be the greatest tzaddik of the nation. If he's a non-Kohen, if he enters there, yumat, he will die. A heavy death penalty on any person besides the Kohen Gadol entering there. V'achshav shualim halchu bo. And now foxes are running there, v'lo nivkeh, and we won't cry. Amaleni said to them, that's why I'm laughing. It's because of the foxes that I'm laughing. What does that mean? Dichtiv, because it says, Va'idli edom ne'emanim, Uriah Kohen v'Zecharia ben Yevarachyahu. I will bring, the Navi Yeshaya said, I will bring witnesses. Who? Zechariah, one prophet, and Uriah, another prophet. And he asked, Ma inin Uriah to Zechariah, or the Rishon Zechariah v'Mikdasheni. How these two prophets were different times. Uriah was in the first temple time. Zechariah was in the second time. Elatala, her cousin of social Zechariah, of social Uriah. The Torah coupled, or in the Navi, Yeshaya, coupled together these two prophecies. By Uriah it says, Lachem biglachem Tion savdeh techarash. Uriah, the first temple, said that Zion, like a field, will be plowed up. He spoke about the destruction. But Zechariah wrote, Od yeshvu zekenot b'rechovot Yerushalayim. He said that elderly people, old men, old women, will be sitting in the streets of Yerushalayim. It won't be a battleground. It'll be a place to retire, a place of freedom, a place where all can be. Other verses speak about Odi Shama Ba'ara Yehuda, right? Again, it'll be heard in the cities of Yehuda, uvechutzot Yerushalayim, and in the streets of Yerushalayim, kol sason v'kol simcha, kol chatan v'kol kala, the sounds of grooms and bride rejoicing. And when Natalie and I spoke on Yom HaAtzmaut, she mentioned that because of this coronavirus that we're all dealing with, because of the coronavirus, the weddings have been moved out to the streets of Yerushalayim. So that was a pipe dream, this prophecy of Zechariah that had this return. And he said, before I saw with my own eyes the fulfillment of Uriah's prophecy, of seeing the field being plowed up. So then I was afraid, right? What will be with the prophecy, the nevuah of Zechariah? Now that I've seen that the prophecy of Uriah has been fulfilled, that the streets, that Sion has been plowed up like a field of foxes running through, I know sure that the prophecy of Zechariah will come about. They said to him, Amrulo, Akiva nichamtanu, Akiva nichamtanu. They said to him, Akiva. They stopped crying. They were able to gain that vision, that perspective of Rabbi Akiva, the reframing of Rabbi Akiva. And they said, Akiva nichamtanu. Akiva, you have comforted us. Akiva, you have comforted us. But Akiva was only speaking about the future prophecy. And that we know took so much time. Let me share with you something else now. Let me share with you a timeline of Yerushalayim. Okay, timeline for history of Yerushalayim, 4,500 BCE to the present. Okay, we have the first settlement of Jerusalem. We have the construction of the first city wall. We have the first mention of Jerusalem in these cuneiform letters. The Iron Age, that's when the Canaanites conquered Yerushalayim. And then we come to 1100 BCE, King David, or 1000 BCE, King David conquers Jerusalem, declares the city the capital of the Jewish kingdom. The only nation that ever lived in Jerusalem, lived in Israel, and made that their capital. They were not occupiers coming from elsewhere, but that was their land, and that was their capital. It's only the Jewish people, King David. 960 BCE, David's son, King Solomon, builds first Jewish temple. We heard his tefillah, his prayer that he offered as he was consecrating that, initiating, opening up. We hope to reopen soon. Opening up that first Jewish Beit HaMikdash. The Assyrians conquer Samaria. Refugees flee to Yerushalayim. The city expands into Western Hill. Sancheriv lays siege to Yerushalayim. Babylonian forces destroy Jerusalem and destroy the first temple, 586 BCE. Okay, Persian ruler, the Persian period, Cyrus the Great conquers the Babylonian Empire, including Jerusalem. He permits Jews in Babylonian exile to return to Jerusalem. Second temple is built. Ezra, Nehemiah. 445, Nehemiah the prophet rebuilds the walls of Jerusalem, city confined to Eastern Hill. Now the second Beit HaMikdash is standing. Time for Hanukkah, 332 BCE, the Greek leader Alexander the Great conquers Judea and Jerusalem. Okay, Hashmonaean dynasty begins. Jerusalem again, that's the miracle of Hanukkah. We repelled these Greek Assyrians. And the Hashmonaim dynasty begins. Jerusalem again expands limits to the Western Hill. And then the Roman general Pompey captures Jerusalem 63 BCE. 70, the year 70 CE, right? So, and then, right, and then King Herod restructures the Second Temple.
My apologies. I couldn't hear what you said.
Wasn't talking to you, Siri. Sorry. Okay, where are we? King Herod restructures Second Temple, adds retaining walls, and when you go to the Kotel, you see there are these thicker walls, and then there are thicker stones on the bottom, and then there are the thinner stones on top. Those thicker stones actually, I believe, are from Herod's time. Okay, 30 CE, Jesus crucified by the Romans in Jerusalem. Roman forces destroy Jerusalem and demolish the Second Temple. That was the year 70 CE. 135 CE, Jerusalem rebuilt as a Roman city. Very good. So the Romans are there. But is that their center? Is that their capital? Of course not. Rome is their capital. They are there as occupiers. 335 CE, the church Holitz Moshe is built. Okay, the Persians captured Jerusalem. Byzantine Christians recaptured Jerusalem from the Persians. Caliph Omar enters Jerusalem. Jerusalem ruled under the Umayyad dynasty, 661 to 750. Dome of the Rock, built on site of destroyed Jewish temples, right? The Muslims who view their religion as 2.0 of Judaism and Christianity's, or let's say 3.0. Judaism was 1.0, Christianity 2.0. They are 3.0. So therefore, according to their view, so you have to upgrade everything. All the shuls, all the churches need to be turned into mosques. Dome of the Rock, built on site of destroyed Jewish temples. Jerusalem ruled under the Abbasid dynasty. Crusaders captured Jerusalem. Saladin captures Jerusalem from Crusaders. Crusaders recaptured Jerusalem 2 times. Muslim Caliph dismantles walls of Jerusalem. Population rapidly declines. The Ottoman Empire captures Jerusalem 1517, and they had it for 400 years. The Ottoman Empire captures Jerusalem. That's why Turkey today still has their fantasy of their control, of their rights to Jerusalem, right? But that was not their capital. That was not a main point of theirs. On the contrary, they had their, probably Istanbul, not even sure. Suleiman the Magnificent rebuilds the walls of Jerusalem, and that is, I believe, the added layers that we find in the Kotel. 1917, World War I, British capture Jerusalem. Now we have the British in control over there. Of course, London, England is their place. They are there occupying with their mandate. 1948, State of Israel established. Jerusalem divided by armistice lines between Israel and Jordan. There was meant to be a Jewish part and an Arab part. The term Palestinian was not even the term that was used for the Arabs there. On the contrary, it was the Palestine Post was Palestinian Jews, meaning Jews who were living in what had been renamed Palestine. Why did they rename it Palestine? Because they wanted to wipe out, they didn't call it Judea. They wanted to wipe out the obvious connection of the Jews to the land. So they gave it another land. The state of Israel is established. Jerusalem divided by armistice lines between Israel and Jordan. Important to note, there was no talk. So Jordan had what is it now? Well, Jordan had Judea, Samaria. Egypt had Gaza. There was no talk whatsoever about an independent Palestinian state. When did that talk begin? 1967. Israel captures Jerusalem's old city and eastern half, reunites the city, also captures Judea and Samaria, the place of Hebron where the patriarchs are buried. The cradle of Jewish civilization was not Tel Aviv, was not Haifa. It was Judea and Samaria. Israel captures Jerusalem, old city, eastern half, reunites the city. That is what, my friends, we are celebrating. That is what we are commemorating. The time where Jewish rule, starting in 1948, was brought back to Israel, where it had not been for centuries and centuries and centuries and centuries. And Jerusalem once again being the capital. The only nation that Jerusalem has ever served as a capital for is us, is the Jewish people. When Jordan was there, it was a backwater. We all have heard Mark Twain's recounting in 1867, I believe it is, of this wasteland. And we read in the Tochacha, in the rebuke at the end of Baalotcha, last week's Parsha, we read that when you be sent out of the land will not give forth its produce. It will remain desolate. It was a blessing that has never welcomed in any other nation besides the Jewish people. And once we returned, then the land gave forth Yivulah, its produce. So I just want to read for you from this book, Like Dreamers. And this is Arik, one of the people who was a main player. Let me get the full name of Arik. And he was the right-hand man of Matagor. Matagor passed away already, but he was the general who was Arik Achmon. He was the general who spearheaded the conquest of Jerusalem. 9:15 on that morning, standing inside Matzah's half-track, Arik received this message from Central Command. Go into the old city immediately and capture it. The government, which had been vacillating up and back, had given its approval. Arik, his tone deliberately understated, passed on the message to Matzah. Confirm receipt of the order, replied Matzah, and tell them we'll execute it right away. Matzah's half-track drove along the ridge of the Mount of Olives. Arik radioed Central Command. What is the strength of the Jordanians inside the walls on the Temple Mount? As usual, there was no specific intelligence. When you watch that video that I sent, so you'll hear from one of the person who's presently head of Mizrahi. He was a paratrooper. And he talks about Death Alley, the way they went, the roads they went, where they ducked over here, they hid over there, they charged over there, and how many soldiers were killed. Many of the paratrooper divisions were really decimated because there was very, very, very poor intelligence on where the Jordanians were, where the battalions were, and even maps were so unclear of where to go in order to get to the points that each of them were meant to take over. The half-track parked near the multi-arch entrance of the Intercontinental Hotel, overlooking the Lion's Gate. Matzah sat on the ground and gazed at the walled city. It was a bright, cool morning, and the sun was on his back. The gold and silver domes of the Temple Mount glowed before him. He closed his eyes as if in prayer. He was about to enter the Jewish pantheon, along with King David, who'd conquered Jerusalem and turned it into his capital, Judah the Maccabee, who'd purified the temple after its desecration by the Hellenists, Bar Kokhba, who'd thrown himself against Rome and lost the Jews' last desperate battle for Jerusalem. Then came the centuries of enforced separation, landscape transformed into memory. And now landscape was reemerging from dream, shimmering back into tangible reach. Until this moment, Arik had felt no historical resonance in the battle for Jerusalem. They had come to the city to protect its Jews, nothing more. But now his thoughts too drifted into history. The paratroopers were about to become the first soldiers of a sovereign Jewish state in 18 centuries to enter the capital of the Jewish people. Again, the paratroopers were about to become the first soldiers of a sovereign Jewish state in 18 centuries to enter the capital of the Jewish people. Even for Arik Achmon, who was not an observant Jew, that was a disorienting thought. So that, my friends, when we hear craziness about this craziness that the PA saying, the Jews are trying to Judaize Jerusalem, right? You realize just what a farce and what a twisting of history, of facts, of archaeological facts, of every fact available that is. So, as he said here, all right, the nation is somewhat divided. Yeah, that's why the second temple is the third temple has not yet been rebuilt, but we are moving firmly in that direction. The coronavirus has done a lot to help unite people and to recognize that we're all in this together, and we look forward to the time when we will have the Geula Shlema, the complete redemption. But as I always say, we have to realize we are living in miraculous times. I was very young. I don't remember the 6-day war. Many of us weren't born. Some of us might remember it. But the euphoria and the turnaround, by Purim we speak about v'nahapachu, how it got turned around. They were preparing, they were digging, you'll see in the video that I sent, they were preparing areas, parks for mass burials. You had armies from Egypt, from Syria, from Iraq, from Lebanon, and Jordan, all converging. And these were serious military, serious armies. This was not, Israel had proven itself in 1948, was still very, very young. But you had this incredible outnumbering. And we thought that we would survive, but we also thought that the casualties would be so high. And no one ever dreamt of a 6-day war. They said that it was Moshe Dayan who gave it the name, the 6-day war. I never heard this before, as a nod towards the 6 days of creation and then Shabbat. So this was he decided to call this Milchemet Sheshet Hayamim, the 6-day war. And it was 6 days that led to a whole new stage of the world, of the Jewish people having returned to Jerusalem. We must be awash with appreciation and to recognize the gift of our living during the time that we are living, and to shoulder responsibility to help bring our nation forward on the next steps. And when we say our tefillot on Shabbos together, we speak about Reshit Tzmichat Gulatenu, the start of the sprouting of the redemption. And we need to do all that we can do to help bring us forward, be it with unity, with love for one another, with acceptance for one another, and doing our best to uplift one another in the direction towards Geula, the direction towards redemption. That's what I've got, my friends. That's what I've got, my friends. 1 second. No. Let me cancel that. Let me stop sharing the screen. Okay, my friends, that's it. I hope you will join us. We have a lot of things coming up, right? Please, at your convenience, watch this video. It's lengthy, but it is very worthwhile. Very, very worthwhile. There's cantors singing. There's kumsitzes going on. There's speakers. It's got it all. It's got it all. Very, very worthwhile. Tomorrow night, Friday night, Kabbalat Shabbat, 6:30. From Motzei Shabbat, Saturday night, 8:45, Havdalah. We'll have Minyan. Again, we will not be together for Yizkor on the second day of Shavuot. So next week, Tuesday night, Omar Price will be speaking, right? Omar is a fascinating person with an incredible story. He's now a stalwart member of Beth Jacob. So in the email that I sent out today, we have a little blurb about Omar. So please do tune in to this same spot Tuesday night for Omar. Wednesday, that's at 8 o'clock. Wednesday night at 7:30, I'll be giving a class on Shavuot, on the Ten Commandments. And followed by 8:30, we will have Yizkor. Once again, I will bring home the Yizkor booklets, and I'll have them by my house. Anybody who doesn't have one or wants to join us and use the Shul Yizkor booklet, they'll be available at my house. Also for Thursday, that's Wednesday night. Thursday night is Shavuot. We won't be able to be together for our davening. There's no Kabbalat Shabbat, and we won't be able to be together for our learning. But please, if you have not yet done so, please do sign up to write a few paragraphs on one of the parshiot of the Torah, and I will put together a booklet. Those of you who want to print it out, you can print it out. Those of you who say, Rabbi, please print one out for me, I'm going to go to the shul and print out as many as we need. And you'll have a booklet to learn Shavuot night, to learn over the 2 days of Yom Tov. Leon, good to see you. We'll have a booklet that you'll be able to see over the 2 days of Yom Tov. You'll be able to, if not staying up the whole night reading it, but throughout the other days, you'll be able to read through some thoughts on every single parsha of the Torah. Shavuot is the time of our receiving the Torah. You'll read through some thoughts on every single parsha of the Torah, and by our peers, by our friends, and that way we will be together even while we are apart. Today is a yard site for Julian Lieberman's father, so we'll have him in mind for the merit for our learning, and also Alan Rushovitz also has a yard site. Not Alan Rushovitz, I'm sorry. Alan Widrow also has a yard site today. So we have their loved ones in mind, that the merit of our study should serve Le'ilei Nishmatam. And with that, unless there are any questions or points people like to make, please feel free to chime in.
Rabbi, when do you need the Yom Tov?
I'm sorry. Oh, when do I need the writings for? By Tuesday. If you try to do it, the earlier the better, because I'm already starting to compile it. But by Tuesday, the latest. And that way, I'll be able to work on it Wednesday and Thursday, and have the booklet. Really, I want to have the booklet ready by Wednesday night for people if they want to swing by anytime Wednesday night, right? I like to have the booklet on Wednesday ready. People come by for the yard site booklet. They could also pick up the learning booklet if they so desire. So let's say by Tuesday, and then I will get it all together. But the sooner the better, the earlier the better. That will give me a little less of a last minute rush on putting it together. Okay, Ken, good to see you also. David, good to see you. Norman, good to see you. Leon, good to see you. Everybody who I don't see, good to have you here. And look forward to seeing everybody. Kabbalat Shabbat, 6:30 tomorrow night. We will see you. Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Be well. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Everybody be safe, be healthy, be well, and I'll see you soon.
Oh.
Shalom.